The Galactic Military Academy floated in the dark space between three star systems. It was old, very old. For more than 1,000 years, warriors from dozens of alien species had come here to learn how to fight. The Academy was proud of its history. It had trained the greatest soldiers in the galaxy. So when the Allied Council announced that a human would join the teaching staff, many were confused. Humans were new to space. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. They were small. They were soft. They lived short lives. What could a human possibly teach at the greatest military academy in known space? The instructors talked about it in quiet voices. The cadets made jokes. The Velith warriors, tall and strong with gray skin and 4 arms, laughed the loudest. They had been fighting wars when humans were still living in caves. Una Park arrived on a small transport ship on a cold morning. She was not what anyone expected. She was a small woman, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair mixed into black. Her eyes were dark and calm. She wore a simple uniform with no medals, no ribbons, nothing to show her rank or history. Her service record was classified. No one could read it. Counselor Brighthorn, the academy director, was a Velith of great age and wisdom. He stood 3 meters tall and had seen 100 wars. He met the human at the docking bay and looked down at her with curiosity. "Instructor Park," he said, "welcome to the academy. You will teach advanced combat response." "Thank you, Counselor," Una said. Her voice was soft but clear. "It is a theoretical course," Brighthorn continued. "Most cadets consider it unimportant. I hope you will not be disappointed." Una smiled a little. "I am never disappointed, Counselor. Only prepared." Brighthorn did not know what to say to that. He showed her to her quarters and left her alone. The next morning, Una walked into her classroom. 12 cadets sat waiting. They came from 8 different species. Some were large, some were small. Some had scales, some had fur. All of them looked at the human woman with doubt in their eyes. In the front row sat Doran, a young Velith warrior. He was tall and proud, with shoulders as wide as a doorway. His family had produced generals for 6 generations. He did not hide his feelings about having a human teacher. His face showed only boredom and disrespect. Behind him sat Whisper of Storms, a Shinkai female. Their species was known for speed. They had 4 legs and 2 arms, with silver fur that seemed to flow like water. She was polite, but her eyes were skeptical. In the back corner, almost hiding, sat Taiho Kim. He was human, like the instructor. He was young, maybe 20 years old, with a thin face and tired eyes. He had transferred from another academy 6 months ago. No one knew much about him. He kept to himself and spoke little. Una stood at the front of the room. She did not introduce herself. She did not welcome them. She simply began. "You have been taught many things at this academy," she said. "You have learned to assess threats. You have learned to calculate responses. You have learned to execute with precision. This process takes between 0.4 and 1.2 seconds, depending on your species." She paused. "Today, I will show you why that is too slow." Doran laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. "Too slow? The Velith response time is the fastest in the Alliance. We have won more battles than..." Una touched a button on her wrist. A training drone dropped from the ceiling. It was the size of a head, with a single weapon port. Standard academy equipment. The drone's weapon glowed. It was about to fire. What happened next, no one could fully explain later. Una was standing still. Then she was not. She moved to the left, drew her sidearm from her hip, aimed, and fired. The drone exploded. The whole thing took less than a second. The cadets sat frozen. Doran's mouth hung open. Whisper of Storms had not even begun to move from her seat. Play it back, Doran demanded. His voice was rough. Show us the recording. Yuna nodded. She activated the room's display system. The footage played in slow motion. They watched the drone appear. They watched its weapon begin to charge. And they watched Yuna begin to move. The timestamp was clear. She had started moving 0.08 seconds before the drone fired. Impossible, Doran growled. He stood up, his forearms clenched into fists. You cheated. You knew when it would fire. You programmed it. Yuna looked at him with patient eyes. I did not know when it would fire. I decided it would happen. That makes no sense. Not yet, Yuna agreed. But it will. In the back of the room, Taiho Kim watched in silence. His hands were shaking under the desk. He had seen something in that moment, something he recognized. The way Instructor Park moved. The way she did not wait for the danger to announce itself. He had seen that before. Once, long ago. On a day he tried very hard to forget. Yuna looked at her cadets. 11 faces showed confusion, doubt, or anger. One face, the human boy in the back, showed something else. Recognition and fear. This course is not theoretical, Yuna said. By the time you leave this room at the end of the term, you will understand something that most species never learn. You will understand why humans are still alive. She turned off the display. Class dismissed. Tomorrow, we begin. The weeks passed slowly. Instructor Park taught her class every morning, and every morning the cadets left more confused than before. She did not teach them to fight faster. She did not teach them new weapons or new formations. Instead, she taught them to think differently. She called it pre-response doctrine. Most species in this galaxy evolved on safe worlds, she explained one day. Your planets had warnings. When a predator came, it made noise first. When a storm came, the sky changed color. You had time to see danger coming. Time to think. Time to plan. She walked between the rows of desks, her footsteps quiet on the metal floor. Humans did not have that luxury. Earth was not a safe world. On Earth, a snake could bite you before you saw it. A wave could pull you under before you heard it coming. A rock could fall on your head from a clear sky. We evolved in a place where waiting to see the danger meant dying to it. Doran crossed his upper arms. So humans are paranoid. That is not a military strategy. That is a mental illness. Yuna did not get angry. She never got angry. It is not paranoia. It is readiness. There's a difference. She wrote 3 rules on the display screen. Rule 1. Assume hostility exists. The environment is never neutral. Something is always about to go wrong. Rule 2. Act on pattern, not stimulus. Do not wait to see the threat. Recognize the shape of danger before it shows itself. Rule 3. Commit without confirmation. If you wait until you are certain, you have already waited too long. Whisper of Storms raised a silver hand. Instructor, Rule 3 troubles me. What if we are wrong? What if we act on a pattern that is not actually danger? Then you are wrong while moving, Yuna said. Being wrong while standing still just means you die tired. The Shenkai did not look satisfied. Her species valued certainty. They did not like to act without knowing the outcome. First thought in the back row. Taiho listened without speaking. He understood what Instructor Park was teaching. He understood it in his bones. But understanding and doing were different things. Every time he tried to practice the drills, something stopped him. His body would not move until his mind gave permission. And his mind was slow. His mind wanted to be sure. After class one day, Instructor Park asked him to stay. You are struggling, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Taiho admitted. He could not lie to her. Why? He did not answer at first. The memory was old and painful, buried deep. But something about this small woman with calm eyes made him want to speak. "When I was 16, he said slowly, my colony was raided. Pirates. They came out of nowhere. The alarms went off, but everyone just stood there, waiting for instructions, waiting for someone to tell them where to go." His hands were shaking again. He pressed them flat against his legs. "My family waited too. My mother said we should stay calm. She said help would come. She said we should not panic." Yuna watched him with quiet eyes. "I ran," Taiho said. "I did not think about it. I did not plan it. I just ran. I found a maintenance shaft and hid there until the pirates left." His voice cracked. "Everyone who waited died. My mother, my father, my little sister. 300 people on that colony. I was the only survivor." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You know the lesson already," Yuna finally said. "You learned it that day. You have just been too afraid to teach it to yourself. I ran because I was a coward. You ran because you understood something the others did not. Waiting was death. Moving was life. That is not cowardice. That is survival." Taiho looked up at her. "Then, why can I not do it now? Why do I freeze in the drills?" Yuna sat down across from him. Her eyes were distant, remembering something far away. "I served on a research station called Ganymede 4, she said. 15 years ago. There was a reactor malfunction. The official response time was 90 seconds. That is how long the protocol said it would take to assess the danger and begin evacuation." She paused. "I evacuated my section in 40 seconds. I moved people before they understood why. I pushed them. I shouted at them. I did not ask permission. I did not wait for orders. What happened? The reactor blew after 60 seconds. Everyone in my section lived. The other sections followed protocol." She did not need to finish the sentence. "They called it insubordination at first," she continued. "Then they called it a miracle. It was neither. It was just refusing to wait for permission to survive." Taiho felt something shift inside him. Not hope exactly, but something like understanding. "How do I stop freezing?" He asked. Why Yuna stood up. "You practice. Every day. You teach your body to move before your mind catches up. And one day, you will not freeze anymore. Because you will remember what you already know." "What is that?" She looked at him with those calm, dark eyes. "That waiting is a choice. And sometimes it is the wrong one." She left him alone in the empty classroom. Outside the windows, stars burned in the endless black. Somewhere out there, something dangerous was waiting. Taiho closed his eyes. He thought about his family. He thought about the day he ran. Then he got up and went to the training room to practice. 3 months into the term, something changed. Whisper of Storms was in the combat simulation room. The program was running a standard threat detection exercise. Hidden drones would appear from random locations. The cadet had to identify and neutralize them before they could fire. She had failed this exercise 11 times. Her reflexes were fast, faster than most species in the galaxy. But she always waited too long. She wanted to be certain before she acted. This time was different. The room was dark. Whisper of Storms stood in the center, her silver fur catching the dim light. She breathed slowly. She was not looking for threats. She was feeling for them. Something was wrong on her left side. She could not explain how she knew. There was no sound, no movement, no light. But the space felt wrong. It felt like danger. She fired. The drone exploded before its weapon even activated. 2 more came from behind. She spun and fired again, trusting the feeling in her body instead of the thoughts in her mind. Both drones died in the air. When the lights came on, her score was perfect. Zero threats had reached firing stage. Instructor Park was watching from the observation room. She nodded once, a small movement of approval. Whisper of Storms looked at her silver hands. They were still shaking, but not from fear. From something else. From the strange feeling of trusting herself without knowing why. How did I know? She asked when Park came down. I did not see them. I did not hear them. But I knew. The pattern was there, Park said. You have been training your mind to see patterns for months. Today, you finally trusted what you saw. But I did not see anything. You saw everything. You just did not wait for your conscious mind to explain it to you. Whisper of Storms thought about this for a long time. The species was ancient and wise. They believed in knowledge, in certainty, in understanding before action. What Instructor Park was teaching was the opposite. It was faith in the self. Trust in instinct. It was terrifying. And it was powerful. Not everyone was learning so well. Doran still refused to accept the doctrine. He trained hard, harder than anyone, but he would not change his methods. Every drill, he waited. He calculated. He made sure, and every drill, Instructor Park beat him. One evening, she challenged him directly. Not in the simulation room, but in the main training hall. A real fight, with training weapons that left real bruises. Doran brought his squad with him. 10 Velith warriors, all trained in the classical methods. They stood in a line, weapons ready, confidence high. 1 human against 11 Velith, Doran said. This is foolish, even for you. Una stood alone in the center of the hall. She held no weapon. Her arms hung loose at her sides. Standard rules, she said calmly. Training weapons. First to score a hit wins. Doran signaled his squad. They spread out, surrounding her, covering every angle. This was textbook Velith tactics. Control the space. Remove all escape routes. Then close in slowly. Una did not wait for them to close in. She moved. What happened next lasted 4 seconds. Later, the cadets who watched the footage would slow it down, frame by frame, trying to understand. They would watch it dozens of times and still not fully believe what they saw. Una did not fight the Velith. She flowed through them. She was never where they expected her to be. She struck where they would be, not where they were. When they turned to face her, she was already behind them. When they swung their weapons, she was already gone. In 4 seconds. All 11 Velith were on the ground, marked with training hits. Doran sat up slowly. His chest burned where her weapon had struck him. His pride burned worse. How? He demanded. His voice was rough with anger and confusion. How do you know where we will be? Una offered him a hand. He did not take it. I do not know where you will be, she said. I assume. And I am willing to be wrong. You are not. What does that mean? It means you wait. Every one of your warriors waited for a clear target. Waited for certain footing. Waited for the perfect moment to strike. In that waiting, you told me everything I needed to know about where you would go next. Doran got to his feet without her help. His squad was standing now too, nursing bruises and wounded pride. This is not discipline, Doran said. This is chaos. Guessing. Gambling. No, Una said. It is reading the future. Not perfectly. Not always correctly. But faster than you can react to stop me. She turned to walk away, then paused. Your methods are not wrong, Doran. They work well against enemies who fight like you do. But what happens when you meet an enemy who does not wait? What happens when you face someone who acts before you have finished thinking? She did not wait for an answer. That night, Doran did not sleep. He lay in his quarters and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his training. He thought about his family's long history of military service. He thought about everything he believed about war and discipline and strength. and for the first time, he wondered if he might be wrong. The attack came without warning. 3 Keth Dominion warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the Academy. They appeared so close that the station sensors barely had time to register them before the first weapons fired. The Keth were an old enemy. They were raiders, slavers, killers. Their ships were fast, and their soldiers were ruthless. No one knew how they had found the Academy's location. No one had time to ask. Boarding pods launched from the warships like a swarm of angry insects. They punched through the station's outer hull before the shields could fully activate. Within minutes, Keth soldiers were pouring through the lower decks. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Emergency lights flashed red. The Academy's automated voice repeated the same message over and over. Hostile forces detected. All personnel proceed to safe zones. Security teams respond. In her quarters, Una Park heard the alarms and was already moving. She did not wait for orders. She did not proceed to a safe zone. She grabbed her weapons and ran toward the training hall. Her cadets were there, confused and scared. 12 young warriors from 8 species, standing in a room with no idea what to do. "Listen to me," Una said. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Standard doctrine says we barricade this room and wait for security forces to handle the threat." She walked to the weapons locker and opened it. "Standard doctrine assumes we have time." She pulled out rifles and sidearms, tossing them to her students. "We do not." Doran caught a rifle with 2 of his 4 hands. His face was pale but determined. "What do you want us to do?" Una looked at her cadets. These were not soldiers. Not yet. They were students. Young and uncertain. But she had spent 3 months teaching them, and she knew what they could become. "I am dividing you into 3 teams," she said. Team 1, Taiho, Whisper of Storms, and the 2 Drenic brothers. You will secure the reactor level. If the Keth take the reactors, they can blow this station apart. Taiho nodded. His hands were steady now. No shaking. Team 2, Doran and your Velith warriors. Protect the medical bay. There are wounded there, and they cannot defend themselves. Doran straightened. His pride pushed through his fear. He would not fail this mission. Team 3 is me, Una finished. I will find the Keth command element and eliminate it. Alone? Whisper of Storms asked. That is suicide? Una smiled. It was a cold smile, but not unkind. I have done this before. Trust me. She checked her weapon and moved toward the door. Remember what I taught you. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Move first. Think later. If you feel danger, trust that feeling. It will save your life. Then she was gone, running into the dark corridors alone. Taiho led his team toward the reactor level. The station was chaos. Smoke filled the hallways. Bodies lay on the floor, some Academy staff, some Keth soldiers. The fighting had already begun. They moved through the darkness, weapons ready. Taiho found himself acting without thought. At every junction, every doorway, every corner, his body moved before his mind could catch up. He read the space around him. He felt where danger might be. Whisper of Storms matched his pace. She understood now. The two of them flowed together, covering angles, checking shadows, trusting their instincts. They encountered their first Keth squad near the reactor entrance. 6 soldiers in black armor, moving fast and quiet. Standard doctrine said to wait. Assess the threat. Find cover. Calculate the best approach. Taiho did not wait. He fired at positions the Keth had not taken yet. He moved to locations they would not expect. When they turned to face him, he was already behind them. When they fired at where he had been, Whisper of Storms struck from where they never looked. The fight lasted 8 seconds. All 6 Keth were dead. Tejo stood over the bodies, breathing hard. His hands were still steady. He felt something strange in his chest. Not fear. Not guilt. Relief. The waiting was over. He was finally moving. On the other side of the station, Doran's team reached the medical bay. Keth soldiers were already there, dragging patients from their beds. Doran's warriors took position. They calculated firing angles. They assessed the threat. They prepared for optimal engagement. 2 of them died in the first exchange. The Keth did not wait for optimal engagement. They fired the moment they saw movement. Doran felt something snap inside him. All his life, he had trusted his training. Careful planning. Measured response. But his training was killing his people. He remembered Instructor Park's voice. Being wrong while standing still just means you die tired. Doran charged. He did not calculate. He did not plan. He ran straight at the Keth position, forearms swinging, weapon blazing. It was reckless. It was chaos. It was everything he had been taught not to do. But the Keth were not ready for it. They expected him to take cover. They expected him to wait. When he burst through their line like a storm, they had no idea how to respond. Doran killed 3 before the others could react. His surviving warriors followed his lead, abandoning their careful positions and rushing forward. The medical bay was secured in 2 minutes. Doran stood among the bodies of his enemies, breathing hard. For the first time in his life, he understood what Instructor Park had been trying to teach him. Discipline was important. Strategy was valuable. But sometimes, the only way to win was to be faster than thought itself. Instructor Park moved through the burning station like a ghost. The Keth command element had set up in the administrative hub, near the center of the academy. 4 officers in heavy armor, coordinating the assault, giving orders to their soldiers through tactical displays. They had guards. 6 soldiers at the door, 2 more inside. Standard protection for a command post. Standard was not enough. YUNA came from above, dropping through a ventilation shaft that the Keth had not thought to guard. She landed in the middle of the room before anyone could react. The 4 officers saw her. They raised their weapons. They opened their mouths to shout commands. She was already behind them. 3 died before the 4th could fire. The 4th fired at where she had been. She killed him from where she was. The guards at the door heard the shots. They rushed inside. They found only bodies. Yuna was already gone, moving to her next target. Without their commanders, the Keth assault fell apart. Soldiers who had been moving with purpose suddenly had no orders. They hesitated. They waited for instructions that would never come. That hesitation cost them everything. Station security finally mobilized, pushing through the corridors with overwhelming force. The Keth, confused and leaderless, fell back to their boarding pods. Those who made it escaped to their ships. Those who did not died in the hallways of the academy they had tried to conquer. When the fighting ended, the count was clear. 23 Keth dead. No cadet fatalities. Several injuries, some serious. But everyone in Instructor Park's class had survived. The same could not be said for the rest of the station. Security forces had lost 18 officers. Staff casualties numbered in the dozens. The Academy's proud defenses had failed to stop an attack that a handful of students had managed to defeat. Counselor Brighthorn called Instructor Park to his office. The old Velith looked tired. His gray skin was pale, his eyes heavy with grief. "Explain to me," he said, "how an untested instructor and 12 cadets perform better than my trained security forces." Eunice stood before him, still in her battle-worn uniform. She had not slept. She did not look tired. "Your security forces followed protocol," she said. "They assessed the threat. They coordinated response. They waited for the right moment to engage. as they were trained to do. Yes, and by the time they found the right moment, the Keth had already killed them. Brighthorn was silent for a long moment. And your cadets? We did not wait to be attacked. We attacked the attack. That is not a strategy. That is madness. Yuna shook her head. It is survival. The strategy of a species that learned long ago that waiting for certainty means dying uncertain. The Academy reviewed combat footage for months after the attack. Analysts from a dozen species tried to understand what they had seen. They watched Instructor Park move through trained soldiers like they were standing still. They watched her cadets act with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. They tried to turn it into formulas, training protocols, step-by-step instructions. They failed. What Yuna taught was not a technique. It was a philosophy, a willingness to act on incomplete information, a rejection of the lie that there would always be time to prepare. Some species could not accept it. Their cultures valued deliberation, patience, certainty. They saw the human method as reckless, dangerous, uncontrolled. Others saw it differently. Doran requested permanent assignment to Instructor Park's unit. He stood before her in the ruined training hall, his body still marked with healing wounds from the battle. I understand now, he said. My people see patience as strength. Humans see it as a luxury you cannot afford. Patience is strength, Yuna agreed. When you have time. The enemy's job is to make sure you never do. Taiho was offered a commission in the Alliance military. High honors. Fast promotion. A chance to lead soldiers of his own. He turned it down. Someone has to teach the next class, he told Instructor Park. Someone who remembers what it feels like to freeze. She accepted him as her assistant. Together, they rebuilt the training program. Whisper of Storms returned to her homeworld, carrying new doctrine in her heart. Within a year, Shanghai military academies had integrated pre-response training into their core curriculum. Within 5 years, her species had become one of the most effective combat forces in the Alliance. The Keth Dominion never attacked the Academy again. Intelligence reports suggested they had classified human combat tactics as unpredictable to the point of precognition. They were not wrong. Instructor Park continued teaching for another decade. Hundreds of cadets passed through her classroom. Not all of them understood. Not all of them could learn to move before they thought. But those who did became something new. Something dangerous. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Her final lecture, given to a hall of cadets from over 50 species, ended with the same words she had spoken on her first day. They will always think they have time to react. Your job is to make sure they never do. 30 years after the attack on Verdant 7, the Allied Council formally adopted pre-response doctrine as standard military philosophy. The architect of this new galactic defense strategy was a gray-furred Veloth named Doran, who had risen to command the combined forces of 12 species. When asked about the doctrine's origins, he always said the same thing. Humans did not teach us to fight faster. They taught us to stop waiting for permission to survive. Somewhere in a quiet corner of the rebuilt academy, an old woman sat watching the stars. Yuna Park had retired years ago. Her hair was white now, her movements slow, but her eyes were still calm, still watchful, still reading the patterns in the darkness. The galaxy was safer because of what she had taught. Countless lives had been saved by soldiers who learned to move before the danger arrived. The Keth Dominion had collapsed. New threats had risen and fallen. And through it all, the lesson remained. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Act before the moment passes, because the enemy always thinks they have time, and the instructor knows they never will.